First off, thank you to the Nashville Film Festival for accepting the film, and thank you all for taking your time in the day to come check it out. It means a lot to me and to all the crew and everybody that's involved, which I do need to thank Carrie Ann and Joel for just saving the project. This project went 4 years through a lot of turmoil and just like sitting in a whiskey barrel. It's kind of what it reminds me of. Making this film, it was a lot of work and a lot of seasons involved, and I couldn't have done it without a great crew. And so thank you all for being here, and thank you to the crew for all your hard work.
What made you want to make this film?
Well, I entered this, when I was in film school, my first film was Straight Up Tennessee Whiskey, which was a documentary short, and I got in the film festival as well, and we did well. And Carrie Ann was doing a Taste of Tennessee festival at the fairgrounds then, and then contacted me and wanted to play the film, Tennessee Whiskey film at the fairgrounds, so we did it. And we met at Whiskey Kitchen, and I started thinking about the next project, and Carrie Ann had just gotten back from Kentucky and Vendome and some of the distilleries. So as a filmmaker, I started thinking about it. I said, well, you know, independent film is very expensive, and I said, well, Kentucky's right up the road. So we started talking and started some contacts, and I said, well, let's put this thing together and start lining up some interviews, and I'll write the story out and get the crew together. And next thing you know, we're in Louisville, and in the middle of two snowstorms. For the Kentucky experience that year, we were there filming, and it just turned into a really fun experience. And once I started digging into the project, at first I was a little leery of it because I thought I didn't really, being in Nashville, I really didn't spend much time in Louisville. I didn't really know much about the city or the state or anything else. And once I was kind of leery because I didn't think after the Tennessee Whiskey film, I thought, well, Kentucky, I don't want it to be too similar. And so once I started doing the research of what Kentucky Bourbon actually was and what it meant to the country and the impact it had on the country and everything else, I said, wow, this is a much bigger story than Tennessee Whiskey was. And that's simply because Prohibition. Tennessee went into Prohibition 8 years early, came out 4 years later, where Kentucky was right there on the forefront of it. So it was really unique to me that Kentucky took a hold of their whiskey heritage and made it into what it is today. And Tennessee kind of took the back seat of that. Now it's kind of turned around a little bit. Tennessee's coming back, but to see what Kentucky bourbon, going to bars. I grew up, family-owned bars here, and I never understood what really was a bottle. You were recommended a bottle by a friend or a bartender or something. If you were a cute girl and she wanted to drink something, you would try it. But you really didn't have an appreciation of the history of what was actually went into that bottle. And so once I discovered what it meant to the country and all the romanticism and these stories and the lore behind Kentucky bourbon, it was really fascinating. Turned into I thought a really good, cool story, and I think an important story for what, whether you drink or not, these local distilleries and these guys that have stuck around and made this whiskey and kept, Jim Beam still has the original yeast strains from the 1700s. With all that going into it, what it really meant to this country was incredible. I mean, it was the leading cause of the whole westward expansion. I mean, this country was built on whiskey. You can shake it any way you want. You heard Michael Veach, the leading historian on whiskey, and he lays it out. I mean, every war, railroad, and everything else was paid for by the whiskey tax. And so it was really fun adventure to make this film.
Were there any sequences that had to be cut that you wish you could have kept in the film?
Oh, we have so much footage. I mean, we were running 3 cameras for months, and there was some stuff, but I mean, you can ask Joel. When you get down to cutting a film, and you have to pick and choose. So, and like the Jimmy Russell stuff, like I fought back and forth on that with that. But what he says about the white dog and young people choosing the white goods, and it's just some of the stuff he says, I had to keep it in there. I debated on it or whatnot, but it was just Jimmy is such an incredible figure in this whole industry, and to have his words and his wisdom. And get a little bit of laughter out of it. I had to include it, but those scenes on the river, I almost died in those. I was during a snowstorm, and I'd warned the whole crew about there being ice into the snow. And as I'm holding the tripod, I'm starting to slide, and they say it was a stone pillar from going to the Ohio River. And then January or February, whatever it was. But it was fun. It was. Thank you to the Bourbon Classic folks. Thank you to all the distillers, to everybody that invited us into their. I mean, they treated us really good. I was really, really taken aback by how well Kentucky took care of us. They were really, really, really good ambassadors for their state and their product.
Do we have any questions from the audience?
How much bourbon was drank in the making of this
There was quite a bit of bourbon drank, which during the Bourbon Classic Week, we were on the media team, and those tours start at 9 in the morning, and they go all day. And at nights, the distilleries would have private parties, and of course you go, and you've been drinking bourbon since 9 a.m., and you're not getting home until 2 or 3. It was... At the end of the week, you're just pickled. You don't even know it. You're just used to it. You're just used to it.
Well, so as a filmmaker, what did you learn from this project as a filmmaker?
Oh wow, I learned a lot because I went through quite a few editors. I learned a lot about the story making process. A lot of research went into this because it was very in-depth, and I wanted to make sure I got it right, and that was very important to me. And I screened this movie in Louisville 2 years before it was really ready, because I wanted to make sure Michael Beach approved the historical content of this film, so I wanted to make sure I got it right. But yeah, there was a lot of lessons learned as far as technical aspects of sound and camera, and we battled the elements. We all learned on the go, and in doing so, and trying to keep up with a lot of bourbon drinking, it was quite the challenge. I mean, like I say, subject matter is very important to me, and I'm a big history guy, and I don't think we could have chosen a better subject than bourbon to dive into. But yeah, it was very enjoyable. There was a lot of bourbon drank. We did learn quite a few things. I learned a lot about the whole pre-production on this film took 6 months at least. Post-production probably took 3 times as long as that. And the production part was definitely the fun part, going out and shooting it. But it was definitely a labor of love. And I mean, 4 years, it was, like he says in the film, it takes about 4 years to put a good product out. And I think that feels true for this film. I feel like it did. I feel like it does. So.
You have any more questions from the audience?
So, has Kentucky's tourism committee approached you about the film and distributing it up there at all?
We've had some talks when we were first making it, but it's been a couple of years that I've spent post production. I screened this film for, like I said, with Michael Veach and those guys, some industry people, and I didn't like the way it looked or sounded, and so I spent another 2 years with Stephen Shively and Kelly Baker and Jay and DC redesigning some of the stuff. But that's something we're exploring right now. I've had some phone calls here recently, and the University of Kentucky wants to archive all the footage, so that's pretty cool. And like I said, I think this is, I didn't know much about bourbon or whiskey or anything else, so I started this project. I definitely didn't know the impact it had on this country. And I had learned a little bit about the Tennessee whiskey film, because Tennessee had spent $70 million on a public project that didn't go anywhere, and then in 2009 they changed the law to allow local distilleries to start operating and turn the economy around. So that showed me a lot about what the actual force of the whiskey industry is, especially in Kentucky and Tennessee, and Kentucky in particular, because it's just they don't have it's not, Louisville is now, it feels like Nashville a few years ago. It's just right at the bubbling tip, and now you have the Distillers Row everything going on there, the tourism, but I mean, it's just, they have done such a fantastic job. The KDA, the Kentucky Distillers Association, with all that. I hope to partner up with them at some point as we continue to get this movie out in different film festivals and figure out distribution. That's something I would be very interested in, is getting it into public play.